Avatar is back in the headlines, but not because of a new release. In July 2025, three major events collided to push the franchise in a trending territory across X, Reddit, and global news feeds. First, Disney quietly pulled Avatar 2, The Way of Water from select territories, following a sudden licensing dispute with regional streaming providers. While details are scarce, insiders say it stems from ongoing conflicts over censorship demands, specifically around depictions of indigenous cultures and environmental resistance. Second, the Indian Ministry of Culture publicly criticized Avatar's portrayal of native resistance as spiritual warfare, after a viral political thread drew comparisons between Pandora's Nasics and real-world indigenous protests across northeast India. Hashtags like hashtag Pandora is real and hashtag Navi Rebellion spiked across Indian social media. Finally, James Cameron himself reignited debate during a Comic-Con interview in San Diego. When asked about Avatar 3, Cameron responded cryptically, "This one will make some people uncomfortable." That line alone generated over 30,000 quote tweets within 12 hours. The result? Google searches for Avatar 3, Nasics inspiration, and James Cameron controversy surged 800% in under 48 hours. Global outlets from Deadline to The Hindu began recovering Avatar as a cultural and political flashpoint, not just a blockbuster franchise. The Avatar franchise has always been more than eye candy. From its inception in 2009, James Cameron's blue-hued universe blended frontier mythos with anti-colonial narratives and environmental alarms. But in 2025, that same messaging has created new tension. The original Avatar still holds the record for highest-grossing film worldwide. Its sequel, The Way of Water, crossed $2.3 billion globally despite pandemic-era limitations. Cameron's vision was clear from the start. He saw Avatar as myth-making for a future Earth, one where indigenous identity and ecological collapse were inextricably linked. But now that context is being reevaluated. Cultural critics, especially from the global South, argue that Cameron's treatment of noble natives borders on romanticized caricature. Indian scholars point to similarities between the Nasics and Adivasi resistance symbols, while African critics liken the RDA's corporate militarism to resource extraction politics on the continent. Meanwhile, inside Hollywood, Avatar has become a bellwether for whether large franchises can survive political scrutiny. Disney's quiet pullback from regions like Malaysia and India appears to be a soft retreat in response to growing regional censorship laws. In countries like Indonesia, religious groups have formally petitioned against Avatar 2's rescreening. Yet, even amid criticism, Cameron remains undeterred. At Comic-Con, he described Avatar 3 as more fire than water, suggesting the next film will double down on cultural and tribal conflict. Public response to the Avatar resurgence has been sharply polarized, reverent in some corners, furious in others. On X, thousands of fans revived the hashtag #ICU hashtag, celebrating what they call Cameron's moral courage for standing by indigenous narratives despite commercial risks. But others weren't so forgiving. Prominent Indian actor Siddharth Menon tweeted, "Romanticizing tribal pain through blue skin and CGI is not solidarity." His post was echoed by academics like Professor Rita Bunsell, who called the franchise neo-colonial cinema dressed as empathy. Meanwhile, indigenous artists worldwide are reclaiming the moment. A group of Adivasi filmmakers in Jharkhand released a short film called We Are Real Nasics, reframing Avatar's themes within actual tribal land conflicts. The 8-minute clip, filmed on smartphones, went viral across Indian Instagram and even reached Western activist circles. In Brazil, Amazonian leaders used the trend to highlight illegal land seizures, sharing side-by-side images of Pandora's rainforest and satellite photos of real-world deforestation. James Cameron created a fantasy, one activist posted. "We are living the horror." Cameron himself briefly addressed the controversy, releasing a statement through Lightstorm Entertainment. Avatar was inspired by Earth, not fantasy. If that provokes real-world dialogue, I welcome it. Streaming platforms, however, are treading carefully. Hotstar issued a vague statement about content realignment after removing Avatar 2, while Netflix India promoted unrelated indigenous-themed titles in its Trending Now row the same week. The cultural flashpoint around Avatar is now affecting both the film industry and international politics. In Hollywood, studios are rethinking their global strategies. Warner Brothers reportedly delayed the international trailer drop for Dune Part 2 in Southeast Asia, citing sensitivity audits. And Netflix has paused a planned release of a tribal-themed miniseries in India, pending further review. Behind the scenes, internal documents from Disney suggest concern about rising pressure from regional content regulators. One memo leaked to industry insiders flagged Avatar 3 as a potential diplomatic risk in 5+ territories. In India, the Ministry of Culture announced a panel to evaluate how foreign media influences public imagination of tribal communities. Though not explicitly about Avatar, the timing is hard to ignore. Some speculate it could influence future licensing deals or even foreign film certifications. Meanwhile, fandoms are splitting. Some creators on YouTube and TikTok are launching the Blue the Nasics campaigns, where they re-edit Avatar clips using AI to depict human indigenous characters instead of CGI blue aliens. Others are organizing global Avatar rewatch parties as an act of media rebellion, tagging them with #ResistWithPandora. There's even talk in academic circles of hosting global forums on fantasy colonialism, how films like Avatar, Black Panther, and even Dune shape perceptions of marginalized communities through allegory. For James Cameron, the stakes are higher than ever. He once said, "I make movies for the planet, not the box office." But with Avatar 3 slated for a 2026 release, it may be his most politically charged release yet. 15 years ago, Avatar was just a cinematic marvel, an IMAX thrill ride filled with bioluminescent jungles and giant flying banshees. Today, it's something else entirely. It has become a global Rorschach test, a mirror for our environmental anxieties, colonial histories, and cultural sensitivities. This recent wave of controversy reveals just how much the world has changed since 2009. Back then, stories like Avatar were seen as progressive. Today, that same lens is under intense scrutiny, especially from those who feel their stories were told about them, not by them. And yet, the emotional core of Avatar still resonates. The Nausicaans' connection to land, their spiritual ecology, and their resistance against industrial violence strike deep chords across borders. Even critics acknowledge the franchise's ambition, its willingness to ask hard questions, even if imperfectly. As streaming platforms become more fragmented and globalized, and as nations begin asserting more control over narrative sovereignty, Avatar's future will depend less on visual spectacle and more on moral clarity. Will James Cameron evolve his storytelling to center real-world communities instead of alien proxies? Will Hollywood finally collaborate with indigenous creatives instead of borrowing their aesthetics? Or will the franchise dig deeper into allegory and symbolism to avoid further backlash? One thing is clear, Avatar is no longer just a movie. It's now a cultural case study, a political litmus test, and a lightning rod for global debate. In a world on fire, both figuratively and literally, Pandora is no longer distant. It feels all too familiar.